All right. It's 2:05, so I think we're gonna begin here. I just wanted to make sure we had enough time for everybody to get in who's planning on attending. Um, yeah, first off, I'd like to give a huge thank you to the whole Ann Arbor team that's here today. I think this is going to be a really exciting session. Um, and yeah, I'll just give a brief overview and read off the session description just to give a quick summary here. So, the 820 Carbon Neutrality Plan outlines the City of Ann Arbor's bold vision to achieve a just transition to community-wide carbon neutrality by 2030. This is led by the Ann Arbor Office of Sustainability and Innovations, and the plan defines six core strategies designed not only to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but also to deliver meaningful co-benefits such as strengthening the local economy, lowering energy bills through efficiency, improving air quality, and enhancing community resilience. In this session, we'll spotlight the leadership of OSI's circularity and resilience teams in advancing Strategy 5, which has changed the way we use, reuse, and dispose of materials, and also Strategy 6, which is enhance the resilience of our people and our place. Um, so yeah, we're going to explore some innovative projects and programs that promote community resilience, strengthen sustainable food systems, advance sustainable material pathways, and protect natural features. Um, and we'll also introduce OSI's Circular Economy Action Plan, which is currently being co-created with circular economy experts and the Ann Arbor community, and establishes clear, actionable steps to accelerate a thriving local circular economy and maximize the impact of Ann Arbor sustainability efforts. Um, so without further ado, I'll give it away to Genevieve Rattray, who is the Sustainability and Innovations Manager.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Henry. Thank you, Michigan State, for having us. We're really excited to be here. We can move on to the next slide. So our overview today, we're going to talk just a little bit about the 820 plan and our circular economy framework. We will discuss resilience and circularity programming in Ann Arbor, and then a little peek into the vision forward with our circular economy action planning process that we are currently in and really excited about. And we can go to the next slide. All right, so 820, it is our bold community-wide plan to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030. It's audacious, and we know it, and we love it. It's a city-led initiative that brings residents and businesses and institutions and organizations together to do everything from reducing greenhouse gas emission, expanding clean energy and electrification, cutting waste, of course, part of our circular economy work, strengthening resilience, more stuff you'll hear about today, and improving the quality of life for everyone. That is core to the work that we are doing it with equity at the core. 820, it's not just a goal, it is truly a living framework of actions and programs that make sustainability accessible, equitable, and impactful here in Ann Arbor. My dedicated team here today are experts in they're expert practitioners in their field. I'm really excited for them to share the work with you that they have been doing. Two of the strategies within the plan are what we'll be focusing on today. So strategy 5, which is change the way we use, reuse, and dispose of materials, and strategy 6, enhance the resilience of our people and our places. All right, our framework. So the term circular economy is relatively new. It was coined in 1990s and early 2000s. However, the principles behind it, as we all know, keeping our resources in use longer, as long as possible, and minimizing waste has really existed for thousands of years. It's been practiced by ancient and traditional societies. So before the Industrial Revolution, so we're talking 1750 or so, the economies were inherently circular. The circular economy is not a new practice by any means. Materials were scarce, labor was abundant, and most societies operated within a localized material loop. So the main drivers behind the natural circularity that was in existence was resource scarcity, local production systems, and limited manufacturing capabilities. But then as we moved through the Industrial Revolution, and then especially after World War II, mass manufacturing transformed economies. Outputs grew faster than reuse systems could adapt, and eventually we found ourselves in the linear economy that is dominated in what we're in today. So the 3 Rs, reduce, reuse, recycle, which if you are of my age, you grew up with, they emerged around the 1960s and 70s. And it was a simple yet incredibly powerful framework for managing waste. Today, however, we recognize that achieving circularity really requires us to have a more comprehensive approach. And it's led to this 10R like system and framework that has a broader strategies that guide us in how we design and consume and manage products and resources, offering a roadmap for moving from a linear the take, make, waste, take, make, dispose system to a more regenerative circular one. So as you can see here in this framework, the 10 R's really go into about three different phases. So the ones we're used to, the 3 R's, are far downstream and really work, they're incredibly important and work in a harm reduction capacity. But then as you move more upstream, we're starting to think more about how are we refusing to begin with? How are we designing waste out of the products we're making? And then how are we going to that middle phase of really keeping them in their highest and best use? So truly, it's not just about what we do with the materials after we do them, but also how are we designing waste out of our products, our behaviors, and our daily lives. So at the city, we're really looking at how do we build both the physical and the social infrastructure to achieve a circular economy. In our circularity team today, we have Sean Reynolds, who is our senior analyst, and he will be speaking to you about natural resources. We have Azella, who is our sustainability coordinator with our food systems. We have Claire, who is our circular economy coordinator, and we have Bryce, who will be speaking about community resilience. So within our team, we really look at it as natural systems, food systems, consumer goods, and resilient communities. And I think without further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Sean to talk about natural features.
As Genevieve said, I am our natural features team member. So my work focuses on building resilience and regeneration of nature in our community through our natural features. So as we are moving towards our goal of carbon community-wide carbon neutrality by 2030, and one of the sub goals of that is building resilience in our community. We recognize that natural features are really important for both of those things. So we are trying to grow and maintain a healthy and diverse tree canopy. So making sure that our trees are not just that we have a lot of trees providing these benefits, but also that those trees are healthy so that they can provide those benefits to the maximum ability that they're able to. We are looking to enhance biodiversity in our community, improve air quality, water quality, and quality of life through our natural resources. And we are looking to mitigate climate change impacts. So two of the main climate change impacts we're expected to see here in Southeast Michigan are increased severity and frequency of storms, as well as higher summer temperatures. So those are two of the main impacts that we are concerned about here. And natural features can really help with both of those. So as we are planting more trees and putting in more native plants rather than turf grass, we are going to see the benefits of those plants having deep root systems that are able to take up excess stormwater, absorb pollutants from the groundwater, improve our air quality by absorbing pollutants from the air, shade our buildings, which both makes it more comfortable for us to live in them, but also means that we have to use less energy to cool our buildings in the warmer months, which then reduces the amount of energy that we're having to put into those systems. Um, and these plants also are really great carbon sinks in and of themselves. Plants, when they do photosynthesis, they're taking up carbon dioxide from the air, converting that into sugars. They don't use those sugars all at once, and so they store them within their trunks, stems, leaves, roots, etc. And so there's a lot of carbon stored in this plant material that is released when those plants die or are cut down, especially if we cut down a tree and either burn it or turn it into mulch. So we're exploring all of the different ways from throughout the entire plant's life cycle to help make sure that we are continuing to store that carbon. So a few of the programs that we offer under our natural features work are our air quality monitoring work. We have 10 air quality monitors across the city measuring air quality at all times, and folks can sign up for alerts to know when air quality is poor. We have our pollinator aware yard care program. which focuses on helping folks to understand why and how to convert their yards from the monocultures of turf grass that most people have to more biodiverse and beneficial ecosystems that pollinators and other things can thrive within. And then we also have our 10,000 Trees initiative, which I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive in this presentation. So the 10,000 Trees initiative was one of the things originally called out in the A20 plan. It is under Strategy 6 of enhancing our resilience of our people and our place. One of the actions under that strategy is to grow and maintain our tree canopy cover. And that focuses not just on public property trees. So one of the actions in there is to plant 10,000 new trees on public property in the city, which would be our street trees from our forestry department, trees in our parks under our parks department, AAPS, our public school system, any publicly owned land. Lots of organizations focusing on that. But the A20 plan recognized, or OSI recognized, that no one was really focusing on private property and natural features, trees, plants, etc., don't really care about the imaginary lines that we have put up to differentiate between public and private property. So it's important to focus on trees in both of those areas. And so the 10,000 Trees Initiative was started by OSI back in 2021 as a program focused on getting 10,000 trees planted on private property in the city by 2030. Very happy to say that we met that goal in 2024, actually. So very quickly, in about 4 years, we're able to get 10,000 trees distributed. Most of those went out through our annual free tree giveaways, where we give out little baby tree seedlings, like the one I'm pictured handing off to someone in their car there at our very first tree giveaway in spring of 2021. And so we've been able to give out a lot of those seedlings. However, if you know anything about trees, you know that little baby seedlings like that don't always survive, even if you do everything right when you're planting it and caring for it. And so we knew that, we know that we don't have 10,000 new trees alive planted through this program. And so we are continuing to give out trees, continuing to do those free tree giveaways. We also launched this past fall a survival study where we emailed every single person who's ever gotten a tree through the program and asked them to tell us how their tree is doing. We got responses from for about 20% of the trees we've given out in the past, and of those 20%, around 47% of them are alive. It doesn't sound like a super high number, but again, if you know anything about trees, that's actually a really good survival rate. So very excited and happy with that and continuing to give out trees, as I said. We also have some new opportunities that have come up under some grant funding from the federal government that are allowing us to do some larger tree plantings as well as maintenance of trees on private property at absolutely no cost to the property owners to enhance tree equity in our community. So we have pre-identified areas that are in need of that because of lack of tree canopy cover or tree canopy health, as well as socioeconomic factors and folks who are in need of those benefits from trees. So we have contractors going out doing tree maintenance work, making sure that the trees are healthy, removing them if they absolutely have to because they're dead or causing concerns for safety, replanting those trees and planting new trees. We also offer coupon codes in the fall through the Washtenaw County Conservation District for folks who want discounts on trees as well as native plants. And we are doing some tree education and engagement. So we've just launched a series of 13 tree walks across our community in different neighborhoods that are self-guided on your phone or other mobile device. Follow along, learn about trees, how to identify them, fun facts, learn about the history of the neighborhoods, and are looking to do guided versions of those as well as some workshops on things like tree health and maintenance. So that's a quick overview of 10,000 Trees Initiative and our natural features programs. And I'm kicking it over to, I believe, Azella next.
Thank you, Sean. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. As Genevieve mentioned, my name is Azella Markgraf. I am OSI's Sustainable Food Coordinator, and my pronouns are she, her. So my position at OSI focuses on policies and programs that build sustainability, equity, and resilience in our food system. Specifically, I focus on ways to reduce the impacts of our food system on climate and to make our community's food supply more resilient to climate change. So in this role, I'm really focused on three objectives: promoting a more sustainable and low carbon diet among Ann Arbor residents, preventing and recovering wasted food, and increasing the resilience of our food supply to climate shocks and disruptions. So as you can see, I sort of span between the circular economy world and the resilience world. Of course, there's much overlap between them. And I'm just excited to share more with you all today about our sustainable food programs. So, thus far, the bulk of our office's sustainable food work has been focused on defining what sustainable food actually means for our community. A lot of times you hear the word sustainable and there's not a whole lot of understanding of what goes into that. So we've spent the last few years working alongside our local food collaborators to get to a definition of sustainable food. And we are very close to finalizing a sustainable food framework, which is rooted in community input and outlines the city's priority sustainability considerations when it comes to the food system. We've worked alongside the Ann Arbor Sustainable Food Business Coalition, or the SFBC, which I'll talk about more in a moment, in order to define these priorities and to outline changes to the way that the city purchases and procures food for sale at city facilities and events. So soon we will have also sustainable food purchasing program, which actualizes those recommendations into an established program and will begin changing purchasing policies and practices at the city. In addition, I've been working with a local nonprofit called Veg Michigan, which is a nonprofit focused on educating consumers about the health, ethical, and environmental impacts of eating a more, or benefits of eating a more plant-rich diet. With our work at the city, we're specifically focused on the connection between food choice and climate. We run multiple programs, including a 30-day plant-based pledge program, which to this day, we have connected with over 7,000 Ann Arbor residents, and 1,800 of those residents have taken the pledge to eat a more plant-forward diet, with 90% of participants in that program reporting that they intend to continue eating a more plant-rich diet following the conclusion of that program. Really proud to show off that collaboration with Veg Michigan, so wanted to highlight that as well. In addition, I've been working with the circularity team here and the city's solid waste team to outline a strategy for reducing overall food waste in the city, focused primarily on prevention and recovery, in addition to the strong composting programs that the city of Ann Arbor already operates. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we co-host the Ann Arbor Local Food Festival, which is a celebration of Michigan food and farming, hosted with the Ann Arbor Farmers Market and Argus Farm Stop, which will be celebrating its 5th year on August 27th of this year. All right, Claire, you can move forward. Thank you. Awesome. So as I mentioned, I wanted to briefly spotlight one of these programs in more depth, which I think is a great example of our office's role as convener and some of the potential things that can emerge when you really collaborate deeply with community in order to co-define sustainable food systems. So Ann Arbor, if you're familiar with the community, is a community very rich in passionate foodies, people who are working hard to advance a more sustainable food system and have been doing so for decades, if not much longer. So the Ann Arbor Sustainable Food Business Coalition emerged out of collaboration with local food business owners who were providing input into the city's sustainable food purchasing program. Today, the coalition is a network of 40 food businesses and organizations working together to make the food system more sustainable. We meet quarterly to share knowledge and best practices related to sustainability in the food system and food businesses, such as waste, sourcing, menu design, energy efficiency, or even things like food safety and sustainability and how those two things might intersect, in order to make our food system more sustainable both at a community and a business level. What's really exciting and why I chose to highlight this program is that this group is really comprised of folks from all across the food supply chain, from farmers to chefs, distributors, even composters. And by sharing our experiences from these very sectors of the supply chain, we build our collective understanding of what the true gaps are in the food supply chain and figure out solutions that really work. So I wanted to highlight a few exciting outcomes that we've seen emerge, not solely due to the Sustainable Food Business Coalition, of course, but in which it had a small role. Hopefully, if all things go according to plan, Ann Arbor will have its first restaurant with a fully all-electric commercial kitchen in 2026. We've also, as I mentioned, developed a robust set of sustainable procurement standards for the city. We've seen two new circular economy food businesses supported and launched with peer support through the SFBC since 2024, including some folks who participated in Michigan's Next Cycle program and who are really focused on capturing surplus food in the food system and turning that into a value-added product. And lastly, this has occurred many times, many more than I can count. There have been several connections between farmers and chefs, leading to new sourcing relationships between local food businesses and our community and the farms that are both in Ann Arbor and beyond. And that is all from me. So I'll pass it to Claire.
Thank you, Azella, and hello, everyone. My name is Claire. I am the Circular Economy Coordinator for the Office of Sustainability and Innovations in Ann Arbor. So I focus mostly on consumer goods like textiles, electronics, packaging, and things like that. So we'll get into it. Okay. One of our main focuses, like one of the core aspects of moving towards a circular economy, which is an A20 action, is using materials at their highest value for as long as possible. So how can we make sure that we're using things and not relying on the landfill as the solution to the end product of where this thing is going to end up? So this means designing and managing products with the full life cycle in mind and not just thinking about the beginning and making stuff, but also thinking about where it will go and how it will interact with the community as it is being used and when it's done being used. So when products reach the end of their current use and their life cycle, they should be able to be refurbished, recycled, remanufactured, or otherwise given a new life or extended life. And so this is like the 10 R's that Genevieve mentioned earlier. And a strong circular economy, also another goal is strengthening the community through connections that can be made by circular economy programming and circular economy initiatives. So by creating opportunities for people to support one another, we're increasing resilience. So that's one way that circular economy does intersect with resilience and community support. Because when you are able to go to a neighbor and say, can I use this, borrow this, instead of going to the store and buying something new, like a shovel, for example, you're participating in the circular economy and you're also building connections within your community, which is really important. So brief overview of some of the circular economy programs that are happening in the city right now. Run by the city are electronics collections. So we partner with Compernew, who is an eSteward certified electronics recycler and refurbisher. And the eSteward certification means that they are held to the highest standards in the industry. They are not allowed to send electronics to other countries, and they have to refurbish before recycling. So in that hierarchy that Genevieve was showing earlier with the reuse, reduce, recycle, refurbish, they're focusing higher up on the system and not relying solely on recycling. And they also do secure data handling and make sure nothing ends up in the landfill. So this is a great opportunity. What we do is we host events and allow people to come and drop off their electronics for refurbish or recycling. And this is just a really good opportunity for people to be confident that their disposed electronics are going to a place that's actually sustainable, and just a way to make sure that people know that they're contributing to the right place with their electronics. We also have a refrigerant management program that's rolling out. Refrigerant technical assistance is what we're going to be doing. We'll help small food retail businesses detect leaks so they're not wasting and releasing highly potent greenhouse gases into the atmosphere unnecessarily. So just for some context, the most used refrigerant is R22, which is 2,000 times more potent around than carbon dioxide. So it's really important that we are using the refrigerant to its highest value, which means not leaking it into the atmosphere. So we've identified that as something that we would like to focus on. And then also packaging is something else that we work with. So returnable food containers is we have a pilot program with a lot of our local businesses right now where we are able to they offer returnable takeout containers for people to bring home and then bring back to the restaurant. So instead of like a styrofoam container, just another alternative. And we're hoping in the future to scale this citywide. And then something else that I want to talk about in a little bit more detail is our A20 clothing swaps, and this is our textile sustainability programming. So we work with a group called zerowaste.org, and they help us bolster this programming. And just for a little bit of context, clothing swaps are a way to share items. So people can come and donate items for free, or they can come and take items for free, or both, at no cost to them. And we have begun doing monthly clothing swaps as a way to increase consistency and reliability, and hopefully be a little bit more competitive with buying new. And in this last year, we held around 20 swaps and recirculated about 1,000 pounds of clothing. So that was in 2025. And then we have also been hosting pop-up swaps to embed swaps in programming in the community that already has events going on. So bringing the swaps to people instead of making people come to the swaps. This year, we're also expanding our programming to include workshops that will extend the life of textiles. So through mending, natural dyeing, and coloring of materials, and then also repurposing. So things like screen printing and making a textile into something that people can still wear, even if it had a hole or if it's not the right color. And then we're also supporting community hosted swaps through our swap replication guide, and also sometimes providing starter materials for people to do their own swaps. And then we're also working with resource recycling systems right now to create a calculator to help people understand the impacts of swaps and what our goals are. So that's a little bit about swaps, and all of these programs are really important to keeping materials at their highest value, which is what our goal is with circular economy. So I'm going to pass it over to Bryce, who's going to talk about community resilience.
Awesome. Thanks, Claire. And thank you for everyone who's on the call for being here today. Claire, I really love the picture that you chose for community resilience because I think it really resembles a lot of what we're going to get into. But my name is Bryce Brolick. I use he, him pronouns, and my title at OSI is Community Resilience Specialist. So I, alongside our whole team, work on some of our resilience programs within the Office of Sustainability and Innovations, and some of the work streams that you'll see covered also slot into the overarching strategies our natural feature work is under, some of our sustainable food work is under, which of course is our community resilience bucket. So as you can see across all the work streams that have been presented here today, the hope is that through robust programming and services and education, we can strengthen our people and our places. And I know resilience is a term that means something different to everyone. But OSI, we like to think about climate resilience as the ability to bounce forward and be forward thinking. So if you think that after disruption, we are just working to be back to baseline, that's not our goal. Our goal is to go beyond it and preparing to do so in advance. So in terms of the community resilience bucket, we do have some explicit goals in our community resilience strategy that I particularly work on. So that includes training 100 neighborhood ambassadors, which will take form in our A20 ambassador program. And I'll touch on that in just a moment. Establishing 5 resilience hubs in Ann Arbor, 1 each of the 5 wards. And if you're not familiar with the term, resilience hubs, the model that we have followed in Ann Arbor are identifying community serving spaces that perform critical year-round wraparound services. So that could be human and mental health services, from childcare to education, to actual mental health counseling. And we partner with these organizations that have been in our community and pillars in our community for a long time and have trust within the community to give their services, their staff, their brick and mortar locations the longest runway to be able to serve our community by the integration of sustainability and other resilience infrastructure as well. So, an example of one of our resilience hubs you'll see on the screen is Peace Neighborhood Center. They are our 501c3 organization that do perform all of those wraparound services that I mentioned and more, and have been in operation longer than I've been alive. I think over 55 years. And they really provide critical services to the west side of Ann Arbor, to a lot of our residents on that side of town and beyond. With, I think, believe in their statistics, reporting up to 60 miles of a service area for people coming to their resources, such as their weekly food distribution events. So in addition to resilience hubs, we also have a focus on household and personal resilience, and an explicit goal within A20 is the distribution of 1,000 emergency kits and the education around preparedness, so that something that feels really scary in terms of talking about disruptions, especially climate related, makes it a little less so that people feel prepared and feel like they have actionable steps, for when disruption arises. And I think when we really want to put the community into community resilience, one of the best programs that we'll see on the next slide is the A20 Ambassador Program. And I think as we've talked earlier, so Claire, I think we can go to the next slide. The A20 Ambassador Program, achieving carbon neutrality is an audacious goal. So to see progress, we really believe that we need and want to see all our community being able to drive our sustainability and climate goals alongside us. We're really fortunate to have a robust office with expertise, but we also need the community to drive our climate and sustainability goals alongside us. But with that, I also want to recognize that there can be barriers for communities and community members to get involved with local climate action, where to start, who to talk to. So this is where we see the A20 Ambassador Program come in to support community members and becoming extensions of our office and our carbon neutrality work under the umbrella of A20. So the structure of the program, it's a program where community members apply to be A20 ambassadors and part of a learning cohort, and they commit to attending 12 topical training sessions covering various topics and strategies of A20. And what we like to say is we can be the foundation for people getting involved in local sustainability and climate action. So if sustainability is your thing, come on in. But if something compels you to get involved in your community, particularly around sustainability, around getting involved in climate, we also want to be the floor for people and the escalator that, feels people they have the competency to take action and understand what is being done at the local level to advance sustainability and climate goals. And I think what we really mean by the floor is like when we're thinking about program design, we don't want to assume that everyone coming into the ambassador program, again, has all of the knowledge they need to be successful ambassadors and practice ambassadorship successfully. So we want to make sure that ambassadors we're on the same level of their understanding. And for example, like when we design our curriculum, if we're talking about our energy goals and our energy strategies, we don't just hop into, okay, how are we decarbonizing a city? We first start with the big ideas, like what is energy? How do we interact with it? What is the grid? And then we move into larger systematic issues and the work our office is doing to address our goals around efficiency, electrification, and adoption of renewable energy, and the application of equity throughout our various programs. So ambassadors commit to doing these 12 topical training sessions so they really understand all the work that's being done locally. And then once ambassadors complete their training, they work with staff or one of our community collaborators to complete a sustainability related project or initiative. So an example that I want to point out, if you see on the screen, this is Claire, Elise, and Nate, who actually worked on a project sponsored by Azella. So these ambassadors in particular supported engagement of local farmers and local food at our annual local food festival. They conducted outreach to local farmers and asked them, okay, what local produce would you like to highlight to the community as part of a tasting and local food pageant? So the ambassadors made an engagement event where attendees could try and sample different local food, and they got to vote on their favorite produce in categories such as best in show, most surprising, and other thoughtful categories. So it really shows how ambassadors are activated after their training, being able to do engagement and produce something that exposes the community to different aspects of our climate and sustainability work. And also, our first community clothing material swap guide was a product of an ambassador project as well. So I think it really shows how community action can be catalyzed and then roped into larger climate work under our umbrella. And then think about the program structure. Once ambassadors finish their commitment, so that's the trainings, that's the project, we don't want to just put them through that training and never see them again. We encourage them to continue practicing ambassadorship and attend community building opportunities, such as an annual summit where we have ambassadors come in, get up to date on different programs and services that OSI is hosting, and also learn about how we can better support them in practicing ambassadorship so that we have two main goals. We're supporting retention and we're supporting engagement with the larger community. And if you see our core tenets that are on the programs, we want to increase access to local climate and sustainability work. We want to continue coalition and relationship building to support our community's broader climate goals. And we want to also have continued learning so that ambassadors can stay up to date and really practice ambassadorship and feel capable. And we do believe that the ambassador program is becoming a staple civic incubator program in our community. And I think the biggest indication of that is ambassadors are consistently giving us the feedback that, one, they feel that being part of the community and the program gives them a community. And they also feel that their understanding from when they enter the program, from when they leave the program, they understand how local government can positively impact climate. And that really changes over time from understanding what the city can do to what we can do, and that bigger things that we are trying to tackle to be able to move systematic barriers to advance climate. And then I think one of the things that we're most proud about in the program is also their understanding and integration of how equity and environmental justice, which are some of our core pillars in the work, are integrated throughout our programs and services. And I think a great visualization of what ambassadors go through is on the next slide. We'd like to call this our ambassador bike map. So it gives a little bit of the commitment that ambassadors make, which is an intensive one. And it goes from, training at point A all the way to sustained engagement and retention all the way at step 4. So they usually run, you can see on this graphic that it runs the timeline, what ambassadors commit to at each phase, and then like what we do on our end to keep community members involved in local climate action. I think that is my time, so I will pass it over to Genevieve.
Thank you so much, Bryce, and thank you to the entire team for thoughtfully sharing some of the work that we're doing through A20. So circular economy action planning, next slide. So here are the project phases. About 2 years ago, we began with phase 1, which was deep resident engagement, specifically with individuals and communities that were not necessarily engaging often or at all with local government. After about 18 months of that phase, we completed with a resident engagement report. So we are currently in phase 2 and 3, which has been generously funded by Next Cycle and Eagle Grant for us to move forward with completing the Circular Economy Action Plan work. And I'll go into depth of each phase in the next couple of slides. But going on from phase 2, which is business and institution engagement, and then writing the report that is compiled from the engagement that we did. Phase 3 is drafting the Circular Economy Action Plan, which is comprised of, we have a fantastic contractor firm that we're working with, Katali Widener, who is local, spent many, many years in Ann Arbor, still is here as a resident, but her team is national and global. A lot of her team comes from incredible cities doing incredible work like Colorado and Amsterdam. So we really feel fortunate that through this grant, we were able to bring on a contractor that in phase 3 can also add that specialty recommendations combined with our deep engagement with residents, businesses and institutions to then create a draft that we will then take to the public for more public engagement, and through engaging the public on feedback, come up with a quote unquote final draft. And none of our drafts are final at the Office of Sustainability. We like things to be living documents because we know we're in a fast-paced environment and things move, and we like to be able to pivot as needed. Next slide. So to ensure the action plan is sound and viable and rooted in community reality, we do have a governance structure. We have our project team, which is myself, Claire, and Sushima, who is from our firm. We have an internal steering committee, so key stakeholders, city leadership from departments across the city. So really bringing experts in from across the city to lay eyes on the process, to lay eyes on the reports, to lay eyes on the drafts, and really be able to bring their expertise. So whether it's public works or city planning or engineering, like we have various experts across the city. It truly is cross-departmental. And then we also have an external advisory committee, so key partners from across the city that really help provide oversight and keep us grounded in the community and in the work as we move through this process. Next slide. So we do have our North Star that is guiding our work, which is, of course, is carbon neutrality. So taking that A20 plan and understanding that what we're doing truly wants to lead to that North Star of how are we reaching carbon neutrality by 2030. Of course, there are always co-benefits to the work that we're doing. And with circular economy, there's such a broad amount of impact and benefits, including carbon neutrality, but also beyond carbon neutrality. Next slide. As I mentioned, phase one was resident engagement. So we were really trying to reach out to understand how the community thinks about circular economy, how they're practicing circular economy, what barriers they have, what incentives they have, and how the city can really elevate that work. So the same with resident engagement as it is business and institution engagement. It really was a series of listening, of really understanding where the community is at, where on the spectrum they're at, and how we can leverage that knowledge and that information to create the best plan possible to uplift Ann Arbor and move them closer to a circular economy. Next slide. And this is our timeline. So as I mentioned, we completed phase one back in June of 2025. Right now we are in phase two, and then we'll be moving to phase three with the final action plan having been circulated publicly and feedback having been written in and having a final published version in around September of 2026. Next slide. So phase two is broken into 3 segments. We are in the deep discovery. So we have about 12 to 14 curated one-on-one listening sessions to really map out operational realities. So we identified which 14 businesses and institutions we should sit down with in person for an hour. We have a list of questions that really help us understand the operational realities of their institutions and their works around circular economy. And that work is going to help draft a broad survey. So then we're going to take this survey and we're going to put it all over Ann Arbor, hoping to have at least 100 local organizations participating in this digital survey. And then together, the interviews and the survey, we will take that information, come up with some recommendations, and pull together a workshop of stakeholders to really help us co-design how we can move forward with writing the action plan. Next slide. Phase three will be recommendations for the action plan, and this is really where our firm is truly coming in and shining their expertise. So understanding what is working, what are the best practices around municipalities moving towards a local circular economy, what is working, where are there barriers, and then putting it together with the actual realities of our community. So taking these recommendations of best practices nationally and globally and tailoring them and marrying them with the feedback and the reports that we have from our resident engagement and our business engagement. Next slide. And once we have a draft of an action plan, we're then going to take it back out to the public. We're going to have it available online several weeks in advance so people can really look through it as much as they wish. And then we're going to host in-person public engagement sessions, so town halls of sort, one in each ward. So making sure that we are going into every ward of Ann Arbor and having opportunity for people to come in person and give feedback, as well as structured opportunity to give feedback online for folks who can't make it in person. So really making sure that before anything is, quote unquote, finalized, that everyone has laid eyes on it from internally across the city to residents and businesses and institutions and truly the community at large, and has had a chance to have conversations with us about what we're getting right, what we need to shift, and then we will be taking all of that feedback and where appropriate, putting it back into our action plan for a final deliverable. So again, this is intended to be co-designed process. So while the City of Ann Arbor will lead the drafting and the structuring of the plan, it's community insights that are critical to ensuring that it will be meaningfully supported and amplified and will be able to work across Ann Arbor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who presented. I think this was fascinating, and it's really awesome to see all the progress you guys have been making and the vision you have for the future. Yeah, it's just really great to see circularity in action and actually implemented in a local government. So now I think we're going to move into a bit of a Q&A section here. So if you have any questions, please just drop them in the chat. And I see Dr. Lamore already had one. And he says, excellent presentations. Are there other circular economy topics that you were not able to tackle yet? For example, medical waste or structural material recycling from demolition or new recycling?
Absolutely. We are looking for the plan to really highlight a lot of these projects that we haven't had a chance to develop yet and look at what would meaningfully be able to take us to a local circular economy. So we're anticipating that as we approach September and as we've worked through this process, that we're going to have some recommendations around all of the various kind of sectors of circular economy. So construction and demolition, in addition to natural systems and sustainable food systems and consumer goods.
Terrence O'Neill asked, have you been able to work with property developers to support or interact with these initiatives? I'm partly thinking about the Bryant Neighborhood District geothermal system, but also interested to hear anything you have to say about your approach.
I can speak a little bit too with the Circular Economy Action Plan. We are absolutely involving property developers in the stage that we're in now of having these discovery questions. So we are socializing the plan and looking for insights from property developers so that we can bring everyone along for the ride, no matter where they are kind of on that chasm of adopting circular economy practices.
Could you talk about anything that's been surprising in terms of either positive or negative in terms of community reaction to different programs? Does anything like pop out as like, we're not quite sure what was going to really land with an audience, and something that had like disproportionately positive response from a community?
I can hop in briefly and also want to open it up to my team for any of their sectors. But I would say something that I always appreciate is I find that the Ann Arbor community is has a huge appetite for the work that we're doing, incredibly supportive, pushes us to do better, and just really the degree that they want to see us succeed and us succeed together is, I wouldn't say surprising, it's exciting. Where I think some of the challenges, I see this other question about what are some of your biggest challenges. Some of the challenges I see are more universal. So really the social infrastructure of things, of how are we changing behavior, but even more than that, like I think folks are really excited to shift behavior towards a more local circular economy, but you have to have that physical infrastructure to support it. So how are you having both simultaneously at the same time? So if we're telling folks, hey, use your returnable water bottles, but we're not having access to refill stations, people are excited about returnable water bottles. I've taken them on trips with me where I've gone to cities that did not have refill stations. And I was thinking, dang, I used up precious real estate in my carry-on for this, only to not be able to use it. So I think one of the biggest challenges is just that universal challenge of making sure that that larger infrastructure is there to meet folks when they are wanting to and or we are asking them to shift their behavior.
I can chime in really quickly also on both of those questions. I think we have seen really incredible positive reaction to the 10,000 Trees initiative. Those free tree giveaways have every single one of them has the registrations have filled up in 2 days at most, and some of them in like 12 hours. So a very incredibly popular program, and very excited that the community is so interested in that program. Um, Claire can speak more about this, but we've also seen that with our electronics collections, the registrations filling up very quickly for those as well. In terms of a program that was received maybe not so well, so the Pollinator Aware Yard Care is not the first iteration of that program. We originally, back in 2023, I believe it was, city council passed an ordinance saying that the city would participate in No Mow May and encouraging residents to do the same. For those who aren't familiar, No Mow May is a nationwide movement to not mow your lawn during the month of May in support of pollinators. And so city parks were participating in it, and we encouraged residents to participate as well. And we got a lot of feedback on that decision. That A lot of it was positive. There were folks that were really happy that we were doing that and supporting pollinators, but there were also a lot of folks that were very unhappy about the long grass in their neighbors' yards or in the parks that they were going to. And so we were able to take that feedback and refine the program, and develop our own kind of approach to supporting pollinators that takes into account methods like that. So mowing your grass less often, or leaving it at a higher height, but recommending not like going an entire month without mowing, and also incorporating other approaches that can support pollinators. So we've been able to kind of take that advice and refine the program. Um, and yeah, that program also, like, as Genevieve was speaking to, one of the biggest challenges we're facing is that systemic behavior change. Folks are just used to having a lawn of turf grass. And so getting folks to recognize that that is not the most environmentally friendly or climate friendly way to have your yard be is definitely a big challenge that we are facing.
I'll hop in with one short addition. If you can hear me, I hope that you can still hear me. Okay, great. I froze for a moment. Well, I think one of the challenges that we face is that we understand that our work is imperative and it is on an accelerated timeline because we're in a climate emergency. And at the same time, we do have to move at the speed of trust, especially because our community has been doing this really important work for many decades. And this is both a challenge and an opportunity to build from the exciting, amazing, and innovative work that's been done for so long, and also needing to build that trust at the speed that it moves while moving incredibly quickly to make sure that we meet our goals. So I would say challenge in the sense that it allows us to build relationships that flourish very quickly and to see the fruits of those relationships emerge in ways that I think we maybe would have never thought were possible when the plan was originally developed. And so it's both one of the most challenging and rewarding pieces of this work.
It is 3:01. Um, so I think we maybe should wrap up. Um, Great presentation to everybody from the Office of Sustainability and Innovation. Really interesting to see all this progress, and I think a really productive Q&A session too. I feel like we all learned a lot there. And yeah, thank you to everyone who's interested in this work and who attended. We really appreciate this. I think this was a really interesting session. Um, so yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much for having us. This was fantastic.